Om Shanti. Translation's okay? 14 different languages. It's a challenge. But for Madhuban it's normal, it's easy. This year especially, Baba has given us the homework of creating an atmosphere that's able to give an experience to others, which means that as soon as people walk into Baba's home, they're able to experience something that makes them feel that there's something special here. But beyond that, hopefully, they're even able to feel that it's God's presence that they're feeling. A little bit of benefit, and that's good. They experience a little bit of comfort, a little bit of peace. They carry away a little bit of relaxation and freedom from stress. Well, all of that is excellent. But what Baba wants us to give souls the experience of is that this is God's home. And I remember maybe it was 75, 76, and Nirvay Bhai was sitting with me in his office, and Baba's first children from foreign lands had started to come. And he said, what should we put up as a sign? Just as soon as they enter the courtyard, they should feel that they're here and that they've come home and they belong. And so we came up with this expression, welcome to Bap Dada's home, your home. And this was a feeling that everybody was having, and this was a feeling that we wanted people to have. And so that little signboard was put up way back at that time. And I was also thinking that when Dadi was given instructions by Baba to leave Madhuban and to come to London, and her question to Baba was a very direct question. Baba, I don't speak English, what should I do there? And we were meeting Baba in Baba's room, just that half size that existed there. And Baba was there on the gaddi, Didi and Dadi were there, Didi Manmoini and Dadi Kumarka, and Dadi Janki was in front, and Brother Jagdish was there, and it must have been a few others. And she was asking Baba this question. And Baba looked around the room, not at the people in the room, but Baba looked around the room itself. And Baba said, go create a model of Madhuban, and you will create a room just like this. And Baba was in Baba's room. And so it must have been very deep in Dadi's mind, both things. And so in two tiny little rooms in a third-rate area of London, she created a place in which many of Baba's heirs took birth, people who've become instruments for world service, literally, many who are sitting here within the gathering now. And if you ask any of them the experience of those days, Dadi today speaks a good amount of English and understands everything in English. So you can't have a private conversation and say that he didn't hear because it was in English. But in those days she could read English and a little bit write English also, because she went for 3 years to school, as you know, and so she went to learn English basically. But Dadi would sometimes speak a few words when it was a gathering of students who spoke English or when it was individuals. But the main thing she was doing at that time was creating the atmosphere, creating a powerful, powerful atmosphere which today souls still remember and say, when we'd walk into the doors of Tennyson Road, we would feel this power reach us, this love and peace reach us, and you wouldn't remember that you were in a third-rate area of London or that we didn't even have a chair for people to sit on. Everybody had to sit on the floor. We didn't have any chairs. You don't need facilities to create an atmosphere. You don't need a beautiful place to create an atmosphere. What you do need is the things that Baba described that day, the power of yoga, but not just yoga, sitting down yoga, but a relationship with Baba which is continuous, so that then through the day you're able to give others that experience of God's love, of the treasures that you've received from Baba, in which there's only that pure motive, an absolutely pure intention that souls should take some benefit. No other motive at all. And so today when Baba's telling us the same thing, it reminds me very much of the early days of service abroad, but also the early days of Madhuban. 70s, and some of you came to Madhuban in the 70s, not even running hot water, never mind any other special facilities, very, very basic, big, heavy metal buckets that you would lift that needed a strong arm. But the atmosphere of Madhuban, the tapasya that Baba had did in Madhuban, had created that atmosphere, and even today, Gyan Sarovar is beautiful, and I love Gyan Sarovar, and I spend 99% of my time in Gyan Sarovar. But yet, any time I enter the gates of Pandav Bhavan, and we'll all have the good fortune of going to Pandav Bhavan tomorrow, any times I enter the gates of Pandav Bhavan, I feel a very special sense of purity, that original feeling of Baba's tapasya surrounding me. And so I know why many of you love spending time in Pandav Bhavan. It's a reality. It is truly the highest pilgrimage place on earth, the place where the first man, the first deity, God's instrument, God's chariot, himself did tapasya. And so where there's tapasya that's been happening over a period of time, and how do you do tapasya? You start with the basic timetable of tapasya. Amrit Vela, traffic control, offering bhog in the evening, 7 o'clock meditation. And we always would say that, yes, at night say good night to Baba, but I think that the one big lesson that, or gift, not even lesson, the one big gift that many, many people are carrying away from Madhuban this time is the good night meditation, right? Who's carrying that away as a gift from Madhuban? Many of you have just arrived in Madhuban, but those of you who've been here for a while, I know that this is what you're taking away with yourself. And so just simply follow that timetable that Baba has set. Not just if you live in a center, but also living in your own Lokik home. Create a model of Madhuban. It's nothing to do with big halls or beautiful rooms, but it's the atmosphere, the vibration. And you do that by first of all following Madhuban timetable in terms of the timings of the yoga that Baba has fixed for us as something which is important for us. Yesterday Baba spoke about the timetable for the mind, but in fact even before you can reach the stage of timetable for the mind, I think it has to be a timetable in terms of physical time, what we would say real time, here in the corporeal world. Just follow that timetable and you'll feel how the atmosphere is gaining force. I remember when we started in Oxford in '93, a person who'd come there just at the opening, and of course Oxford is absolutely beautiful. There isn't another place like it on earth in terms of its physical beauty. I can really say that, both external but in particular the internal place that Baba has given us as a gift. We didn't make it, it came to us as a gift. And the place was, of course, right from that moment that Daddy Gulzara and Baba inaugurated it in June, it was beautiful. But they came back about 9 months later and they said that the atmosphere had already changed. It had already become powerful. And of course, through the years, more and more and more. And so the vibrations of yoga are really the first step, the foundation for creating a powerful atmosphere. And this year Baba has said, every single home and wherever Brahmins live, and every single center should carry that atmosphere where people can come and take benefit. And I'll just digress for a moment before I come back to how to create that atmosphere further. But a question struck me, and that is, why is Baba talking about creating an atmosphere, especially this year? And of course, you all know about the conditions of the world, and in October when we came, then people said that when we'd reached Madhuban, the world out there was different, and coming here and spending a couple of weeks here, and by the time we go back, the world is very different. Well, I think, although even at that time the UK was impacted, of course, but just in the last few days, the situation has really, really degenerated tremendously. And so the atmosphere that existed even when I left London, which was actually a few weeks ago now, but the atmosphere today in London, it's completely different. And so the atmosphere of fear outside and uncertainty and insecurity, and wherever it is, Brahmins live. Not just centers, but wherever it is, Brahmins live. An atmosphere of security, of calm, of peace. And beyond that, an atmosphere of healing, an atmosphere of safety, an atmosphere in which people can be empowered and even further actually feel uplifted. And so I'm seeing that because of the conditions of the world out there, each Brahmin home, and of course each center, is going to be a place of refuge for people to come to. I remember when Baba talks about a center in every street, a center in every lane, and I thought it meant Bharat, that so many centers and, just a little bit further and there's a center and a little bit further there's a center. Now I understand that it actually means wherever there's Baba's child, wherever there's a family that's in Gyan, that place is a place of refuge, a place of safety. It is for you if you're not able to go to the center. But imagine, everybody around you in that neighborhood, they should be able to know that, yes, this is a place where we can come to, where we can take sustenance. And the conditions of the world aren't going to get better. People, I think it was just in September, October, even November. That's right, even November, the experts in the UK were saying, oh, it's okay, it's just, a mild thing. And today the government is acknowledging that the UK is in a deep recession. Now, that's strong language to be using. And that's a country that's sort of more or less stable, sort of. But imagine in many other countries where there's a lot of instability and insecurity anywhere, and yet, what's the condition there? And so, I think to keep ourselves safe and not be affected by the fear of people out there, and the worry and the anxiety and all the negative stuff, we have to create an atmosphere in which Baba is present. The other thing that I keep remembering in terms of atmosphere is, why has Baba keep reminding us? Baba has kept reminding us of this contract with Baba, in which if ever I say, my Baba, Baba will be present in front of me. If I allow myself to be present in front of Baba, which means available to Baba, having a relationship with Baba, Baba's contract with me is that Baba will be present in front of me. I call to Baba, and Baba is going to be available. And I think that this is going to be something that we're going to have to practice more and more, and use Baba more and more in this way, both for ourselves as well as in order to be able to give others that experience of safety and protection. Baba's often uses the word asylum and refuge. Each one of Baba's homes, but now I'm extending that to wherever it is Brahmins live, because that becomes an ashram, a place of purity, a place of peace. And so each place where there's a yogi child, a Brahmin child of Baba, that place is a place of refuge, a place of asylum for you, but also for others. And all of this happens through the relationship I have with Baba, but also the relationship that I have with others around me. Imagine if I don't have a relationship of harmony with others around me. How's it going to be possible to create a place of refuge, a place of safety? Walk into a room where there's been a little bit of a friction, and it might have been half an hour ago or even earlier in the day, but the vibrations are still there. Vibrations have been generated and they stay. As I said in Baba's room, Baba did tapasya years ago, but yet still those vibrations were there, and we've continued to add to those vibrations through using Baba's room. And this is what happens. But the negative side equally, a place where there's been either conflict or maybe not even overt conflict. Baba's been talking to us about attitude, where the attitude amongst the people there, 2 people, 3 people, 30 people, however many it may be, but if the attitude of the people there is of friction, then what are others going to feel? That will be the disturbance in the atmosphere, and souls won't be able to feel that benefit and take that benefit. And so the highest form of service is the service through the mind. Baba's often told us that. But now Baba's also saying that the highest form of service is to be able to create that atmosphere where people can come and take benefit and recognize God. So practical. The timetable that I observe in my home or at the center, the time for actually sitting down in yoga and spending time in silence with Baba, but also what is it that's going on through the whole day. And so all of that is going to add to the atmosphere, or it's going to detract from the atmosphere. I remember early days, and Daddy used to be quite strict. And sometimes people from the old days tell her, Daddy, you're not as strict as you used to be. And we liked it when you were so strict because it made us very, very straight. And I don't know whether you agree with that or not. Maybe what Daddy's saying today already feels strict to you. But in those days, Daddy was very, very specific. And it meant that nobody could talk about anything Lokik in Baba's house. There was absolutely no way you could talk about what was going on in the world outside in terms of, anything really. You couldn't talk about business, you couldn't talk about television, you just didn't. You didn't talk about Lokik anything. It was Gyan and Yoga, and out of that, yes, then the plans for service that emerged. And today sometimes I feel that we've moved a little bit further away from those basic ground rules that Baba had laid in the early days and then the Dadis continued with. I'll give you an example. It's a story that some of you have heard, but Baba's new children haven't heard. But Baba came, Shiv Baba came into a community which was basically in one particular corner of the subcontinent, which today is Pakistan, Sindh. And so the people in that community, of course, only spoke the provincial language, which was Sindhi. And according to drama, all the Dadis were from that community, and so the language that they spoke was Sindhi. A few of them knew a little bit of English, like Dadi Kumarka, Dadi Jayanti, but some of them didn't even know any English, like Dadi Gulzar went to school in the Om Mandli school, and so she never studied English as such. And so the language that they communicated in was Sindhi. But Shiv Baba came, and from the very beginning, what Shiv Baba began to speak through the mouth of Brahma Baba was the language Hindi. And Brahma Baba was a little bit familiar with that because Baba used to work in Bombay, Calcutta, Varanasi, all of these places. But none of the others were used to the language of Hindi. And in fact, they had to learn, again, Shiv Baba's guidance. And in 1938, when there was no question of partition, nobody had even imagined it, and nobody could have thought that they were going to have to move to India and serve in India. None of that was a possibility. And yet, Shiv Baba's guidance, learn Hindi. And they had to implement that. And when they would speak, they would lapse into Sindhi again. And Baba initiated a very simple system. And that was, Baba knew when they were speaking Gyan with each other, they were speaking in Hindi, a different language. But when they'd leave the sort of Gyan environment and get into their work environment or leisure time, going for a walk or whatever, they'd lapse into Sindhi. And so Baba started a system and said, if you speak Sindhi, you don't get any papad. You know papad? I don't know whether you like papad, but I think most of you know what is papad, that flat pancake, very thin. So what Baba was doing was making them aware that if you're speaking Sindhi, you're liable to lapse into other matters which are extraneous. But if you stick to Hindi, the language that God is speaking in, the language that you're hearing Gyan in, then you're more likely to stay on that straight and narrow of Gyan. And so it's not just something that we do at centers today about don't talk about worldly matters, but definitely right from the start of the yajna, Baba made sure that there was no other exchange of any type, not even the exchange of experiences in the sense of, well, how did you free yourself from bondage and come here? That wasn't the question they asked each other. The question they asked each other was, what was your experience of soul consciousness today? How did you practice the things that Mama talked about? How did you practice the things that Baba spoke about? So the conversation that was happening through the whole day, and of course it was their time of tapasya, but even the conversation contributed to that tapasya. Now, translate that into life outside of Bharat. You're coming to a center, whether it's east or west, it doesn't matter, but you come to the center for a couple of hours, and then maybe you spend a few more hours at the center at some point, helping in service through the day. What is the topic of conversation? Is it, what did Baba say today? Or is it, well, this is what my friend said, this is what my colleague said, this is what my husband said, you know? Or worse still, did you hear this is what happened yesterday? Or do you know this is going on? And so if it's conversations of that nature, what is the impact it's going to have on the atmosphere? And you know, whatever it is you speak, that comes much later, but it's actually what's going on in your mind. What's been running around in your head for a little while is then what comes out through your lips. It doesn't just pop into your mouth from somewhere out there. It doesn't. But it's been buzzing around in here. And it's already created an atmosphere of that. And then it's going to come into words. And then, once it's come into words, there's no way you can withdraw it. Then it's spread. And you tell somebody, I'm just telling you. And that's the key to having 1,000 Brahmins know about it within a week. You just have to say to somebody, just listen, this is really just for you. And the way it'll be spreading is fast. Speak about something quite innocently, normally, and maybe it'll escape their attention, but preface it with this, and that's what's going to happen. And so the whole question of atmosphere is the subject of, well, what is it that's going on in our heads, in our hearts, and then what is it that's coming out in our communication. And so we can have powerful Amrit Vela, we can have powerful meditation together, but if after that what we are doing is all of this, talking about business, talking about people, talking about Brahmins, then not only are you diluting the atmosphere, you're actually polluting the atmosphere and bringing it right down. And then you wonder, well, how come people don't feel God's vibrations as soon as they come into Baba's house? Or why is it that they don't feel that there's something different here? It's because we haven't given attention to what's going on through the whole day. Not only the question of what's going on in my mind, am I seeing negative things and speaking of negative things? But even something more subtle. Baba's been talking about what's in the back of your head, and that is your attitude. And you don't even know that it's there. And, we develop attitudes since childhood. It's acquired. We're originally here on earth in Satyug as pure souls, and then gradually we lose that purity and power. And then since the Copper Age, wherever it is we take birth, it's karma. Satyug and Treta, it's the reward of the effort of Sangam Yug. It's not karmic accounts, but from the moment you take birth, it's karmic accounts. And at the end of Kali Yuga, the karmic accounts are horrific. I don't want to go into why is it we take birth somewhere and the karma there, but yesterday we had a little meeting about mental health and the impact of alcohol on the child that's the fetus and the child in the womb. And I hadn't realized you understand the impact of alcohol even without having tasted it, you know that. But I hadn't realized the impact of alcohol on the fetus in terms of the effect of the deformities that happen in the child. It was quite horrific as I heard it. I hadn't understood the detail. So my point that this moment, karmic accounts and the birth that a child comes to, in which family, it's really the end of the cycle, and it's extreme, extreme, extreme. But even through the period of Copper Age and Iron Age, you're born, and you're born in that innocence, and you don't even know the difference between gender. And certainly you don't know the difference between black and white and brown and pink and yellow and any of this. You make contact. And even today, if you see a baby, when you're traveling usually, don't see so many babies at centres, but usually at airports, on planes or trains, there's always little babies, little children around. And if you make eye contact, they'll keep coming back to you again and again, because they're feeling your vibrations, the vibrations of Brahman. Children pick that up very quickly and are drawn very quickly to Brahmins. But the attitudes that a child begins to develop, so even age 2, 3, 4, the attitudes aren't so hard, but gradually the build-up. And by the time we're 18, whatever, we don't even realize it. Attitudes are quite deeply entrenched. Family, society, media, peer pressure. I am Indian, I am British, I am French. I don't know at what age that really gets underlined within a child. 10, 9, I don't know. But certainly in teenage years it's already there. And so even today, attitude and pre-gyan and the attitudes we've acquired, we don't even know. And so when Baba says, let go of the consciousness of the body, let go of the consciousness of bodily relations, coming back to this awareness and being able to practice this. And so first step, it's really first step, the attitudes of division, of race, of gender, of religion, and all of these very external things, they don't go so quickly. Practice, practice, practice soul consciousness, seeing others as souls. 10 years in Gyan, 15 years in Gyan, 20 years in Gyan, and people still come out with statements because so-and-so is of this geographical region or this racial background, this is why they're behaving like this. And you stop and you think, well, what happened to soul consciousness? What happened to the practice of the vision of the brother? And if even in a subtle way it's there, it's going to come out in behavior. It's going to come out in words at some point. And so the whole process of cleaning the attitude through soul consciousness, through the practice of vision of brother. Okay, so that's the pre-gyan attitudes, and very external, but also the stereotypes that we carry about personalities. This personality is this personality is this, and so on and so on and so on. And so where I see a personality that's pretty strong, and the fear that I carry, an attitude that I've had in me through my sanskars for many births, and then it's been reinforced further through childhood and adolescence and so on. And I still carry that fear in my attitude of a Brahmin who's very strong and forceful. Cleaning process and a reminder. Who am I? Not just as a soul, but I, the child of God. I, the child of the Almighty Authority. I have to remind myself. Lokik people call it affirmations, but affirmations may be real or not real. But Gyan is awakening the memory, smriti, awakening the consciousness so that I truly remember who I am. And an affirmation isn't based on a half-truth or an untruth, but it's real. This is who I am. Further step, yes, I'm the angel, I'm the deity, and all of those beautiful things, but even basic. The child of God, the child of the Master Almighty Authority. And if I'm on the other side, I'm pretty strong, so that attitude or that tone of bossiness comes out with whoever. I'm the child of the one who is the ocean of compassion, the ocean of mercy. Cool it. Take it easy. Not everybody can take your force. And so just remember, change your attitude, change your behavior, change your tone. And all of that is going to impact the atmosphere. One person strong and one person afraid, it impacts the atmosphere. And so both have to change. The bossiness and that controlling air in the atmosphere, and it's not a very welcoming atmosphere. People afraid, again, that's not a very sweet atmosphere to walk into. And so when Baba said, change your attitude, I see how powerful that lesson is. One of the things that Dadi's been very particular about the last several years, and she underlines it more and more and more and more each day. And she'll say, even if somebody has made a mistake, and you know it's a mistake, and it is a mistake, but you don't see it, close your eyes to it. Yes, if you need to report it to a senior, you do that. But you don't let it affect your consciousness and stay in your attitude. If it's in your attitude, then that's going to impact your relationship with them. You're not going to be able to support them and help them and inspire them to move on. But also, if it's there in your attitude and your body language and your behavior, not only are they picking it up, Others are picking it up also. And so there'll surely be somebody who knows you pretty well and will come to you and say, is there something wrong? Is there something not quite right here? And then you'll pour out your heart and say, yes, this thing happened and I saw this thing, and they'll say, yes, it's true, isn't it? It shouldn't be like this. Not in Baba's house, isn't it? So what's happened? What have I done? I've actually polluted the atmosphere and brought it down. And so they made a mistake. Wrong, fine. I got, never mind about being upset or angry. You've heard Baba talk about that a lot. 2 mistakes don't make a right. So I have no right to get angry about it. I have no right to get upset about it. Fact. Baba's told me that's also anti-Srimad. And so they're wrong, but I'm wrong too. But even that slight impact in my attitude about them, against them, and I've polluted the atmosphere, and especially because it's going to create that ripple effect, and it's not going to reach one, it's going to reach everybody in the center at some point. And so she would say, just close your eyes. You didn't even see that mistake. You hear something, you didn't hear it. For Baba's saying, see and don't see. Hear and don't hear. If mistakes are talked about, that really is the most harmful thing that can happen within the atmosphere, within the Brahmin family. Not only is it gossip, and we don't realize that that's gossip. We think that we're sharing information, but absolutely it is gossip. What is it that I need to do? I need to help create a powerful atmosphere and maintain the power in the atmosphere. And so to talk about mistakes is totally the contrary to that. And so, yes, I need to report it. Let me report it. Baba's last Sakar message to us, don't take the law into your own hands. You can't do that. It's not right. And so what must I do? I must make sure that I see the goodness of that individual, the specialities of that individual, and continue to have love and respect for them. Most seasons, at least once during each season, and it started to happen many, many years ago, but at least once during the season, Baba reminds us that Baba loves the very, very last soul who's part of the Brahmin clan. Lokik people don't like this word number-wise, and we also might not like it. It's not something that you like, number-wise. It's hierarchical and it sounds old-fashioned, but it's the law of the world. It's the law of the universe. There is a reality in number-wise, and not just differences and variety and appreciating variety. I know all of that, but yet the reality is that there is a number one, there is a number two, and so on and so on and so on. And yet what Baba's saying is that, yes, of course, Baba loves the number one, no question. But also, Baba specially mentions Baba loves the very last one of the Brahmin clan. Why? Because at the very least, they have recognized God. And billions of people haven't. And so there's a specialty that they have that billions don't. And then not even just thinking about, and as I say, I've remembered that every season, at least once, Baba's remembered that. But yet, the people we're living with, the people we're working with, the people who are our companions, students together, Baba's children together, service together, whatever it may be, they're people who've not just recognized God, but some are people who've surrendered to God, some are people who've given their heart and soul and mind and body and wealth to God. And so, yes, number-wise, but yet they've done all of this already. Never mind what more they're going to do, but this much they've done already. And so, yes, they've got 1 floor, 2 floors, 5 floors, whatever it may be, but yet there's a very special role that they have within Baba's family and in the establishment of Satyug. Each one with their own particular role and each one contributing in their own specific way. And I can't do the work that they're doing. Ask yourself that question. Could you do what they are doing? And so Baba needs each and every one. And so the training that Baba's giving us, keep your attitude very, very pure. And then you're also going to be able to have very good feelings for them, good wishes for them. I mentioned the importance of yoga, and in terms of relationships, attitude and behavior and so on. But the last thing that I want to close with, because always time races too quickly, and what I'd like to do is to finish in a couple of minutes, so you have at least 2 minutes for a stretch break, because Daddy will then arrive. So the last thing that I want to close with is, okay, if you're not talking about this thing, that thing, and the other thing, and business and family, Lokik and the world out there, what are you going to talk about? Gyan. What did Baba say today? And just that one question to yourself, what did Baba say today? And maybe what happens is that you get a shock, because this morning's Murli is so far away. 1,000 things have happened during the day that have occupied space in your intellect. Can you remember what Baba said today? Can you remember the blessing that Baba gave you today? Can you remember the slogan that Baba mentioned? The Murli is big. The blessing is short. The slogan is one line. Can I even remember one line of what Baba said today? Shock. And maybe for some, no. You've practiced keeping Baba's words, Baba's supreme versions in your consciousness, and so it's there, ready for you to pull out. But what makes life much sweeter is where you thought about what Baba has said, but also in your conversations, you're also talking about what Baba has said. And you get into this habit. When you sit down for a cup of tea in Madhuban with somebody, yes, it's nice to know where you come from, it's nice to know your Lokik background, but much nicer to know, what are you thinking about? What did Baba say? And you start a spiritual exchange. You'll forget the country they're from and their Lokik profession, but the connection you've made with them spiritually, you won't forget that. Early days, and now they don't make those announcements even, so I don't know what's happening, but early days after Amrit Vela, when we used to go to cut vegetables, or even after morning class, there would be the opportunity to go do some karma yoga and cut vegetables. It was very beautiful because the conversation amongst the people, 2, 3, 4, was always, what did Baba say yesterday? What did Baba say today? And it was such a sweet experience in which you've thought about something, but you've said something, and it's underlined it for you. And it's radiated out into the atmosphere. So where there's this practice of reflecting on Gyan, and then further sharing Gyan, you don't need to give a lecture to Brahmins. They're not ready for that. Why should they? They know it anyway. Why should you give lectures? But just that spiritual exchange from the heart. What is it that touched you from Baba's Murli today? What was a new insight for you from Baba's Murli today? Now, that creates a very, very sweet and powerful atmosphere. It is very supportive for you, but also very supportive for others who come in. And I've spoken about Madhuban and how we can use the atmosphere that already exists in Madhuban and support that and generate more power there. But also think about your center or your home. Somebody told me the family comes to morning class, they go home, they have breakfast together, and they say that over breakfast what we do is share Baba's Murli. Another person told me they make sure that their car is full. They never come with an empty car. And so the passengers in the car and the driver, the conversation returning back after Baba's Murli is, what did Baba say? And it underlines it for them, and it creates that spiritual relationship. And of course at the center, Murli revision, study for yourself, but also come together with others to do the same. So let me stop there, but just some very practical things about what it is we need to do what Baba's asking us to, and why Baba's asking us to do this, especially now at this moment. I won't stop for a moment of silence because I'm not sure if you want to have a stretch break and just go out for a couple of minutes to do whatever you need to do and be back. Do you want to do that? Who wants to do that? Oh, very few. Okay, we'll let you do that. But then what we'll do is...
They should stay like that. They'll be reaching in.
Sorry. So Daddy will be here in just 5 minutes or so. So you have enough time for a bio break, a stretch break, whatever it is you need, and then be back here. But we'll start the meditation here. And so you start remembering Baba's Murli from this morning. Start feeling Baba's Murli from this morning. Don't let the meditation just be empty, blank, but let it be very rich and full. Om Shanti.